The Lakers are essentially a team that can't shoot. They have a rookie defensive head coach. They flipped the roster at the trade deadline. LeBron now looks gassed and disappears for quarters. AD is great, mostly, although he has bad halves. And undrafted Austin Reeves and Lonnie Walker are lighting it up. Not exactly Jordan's Bulls or Shaq and Kobe's Lakers or Bird and McHale or Magic and Kareem. Remember when our parents said, just eat your vegetables and drink your milk? That's all it takes. You'll be big and strong. In the NBA, here's the version of that. Hit your free throws and play great defense. You don't have to shoot. You'll end up in the Western Conference Finals. Is that where we're headed? I mean, I don't get it. LeBron looks tired. There's only 1 day's rest in between games. He and AD played more minutes than anybody. LeBron looked gassed. He disappeared for stretches. Anthony Davis offensively looked tired. He was hiding. Steph never looks tired, although I think everybody at Golden State's tired of Jordan Poole. The Lakers, though, are so good defensively that it masks their deficiencies. And that defense, which is a notch better than anything left, including the Celtics, it keeps them close in really ugly offensive stretches, and man, do they have them. But they're so old school, they're becoming vintage. They're like Polaroids and trucker hats and vinyl records. This doesn't make any sense. Bounce around the league guys, undrafted guys. Now, in 2020, the Lakers weren't a great shooting team either, but LeBron was much closer to his prime. He looks like a shot fighter for long stretches. And in football, eventually, if you just run the football, you'll be exposed. You have to be able to some point pass the ball very effectively from the pocket. Can the Lakers get to the Western Conference Finals and win a championship and they can't shoot and it's a shooter's era? Maybe. Vegas now has them as the second best odds to win a championship. Again, in 2020, they were a better offensive team than this. They were better, but they were also 2021st shooting team. But AD had a 3.5-month, 4-month sabbatical because of COVID, so he was in the best shape of his life. And LeBron wasn't in his prime, but was darn close to it and would give you 3.5 quarters of great basketball. If you get a couple great quarters out of LeBron now, you take it. I don't know. In the 1970s, the NBA was pretty weak. If you had one great player and a bunch of, guys, you could win a championship, right? Like Sonics, Blazers, a lot of that stuff. And then from that point forward in the 80s until today, you need two great players, sometimes a third, like the Heatles, and then you get to the championship level. Doesn't mean you'll win it. Are the Lakers so old school that they have one great player, AD, who, by the way, is a little hit and miss offensively, LeBron way out of his prime, and just a bunch of guys? Because right now, they have one star, and that star is AD, and he is dominant on both ends of the floor, but only one end of the floor every night, and that's the defensive end. The game itself was fantastic. It was an all-timer, an all-time classic. Lonnie Walker going toe-to-toe with Steph, and LeBron talked about it after.
We're just a resilient bunch. They hit us with haymakers after haymaker after haymaker, trying to get us to fall. We just stayed in the fight. It's a 48-minute game, or if it's a 12-round boxing match, and we stayed in there for 12 rounds, man, and was able to pull through.
Let's talk about Steph Curry. Steph Curry last night was absolutely great. I can remember back in 1993, sitting on a couch in Las Vegas with a friend, 1993. And the sign of greatness is when you have a bunch of really good or great players in a game, and Michael Jordan was so much better than everybody else. In 93, the finals, Phoenix and Chicago, Barkley was sensational. 27.5 points, 13 rebounds, sensational. Yet the gap between him and Michael Jordan was the Grand Canyon. That's how great Jordan was. As good as everybody else was on the floor last night, Steph felt like 1,000 times better most of the night. Passing, shooting, leadership, handling the ball, assists, all-encompassing, virtuoso performance by Steph. And I wonder, have we have we understated, have I understated how great he is? The Warriors won a title last season, and their second best player was Andrew Wiggins. Didn't it remind you a little of Tom Brady's last Super Bowl in New England, where they had no 1,000-yard receiver, no 1,000-yard rusher? Gronk and Edelman were old men. Brady wins the Super Bowl, eventually leaves a couple years later, and they look slow and unathletic. Look at this team. Klay Thompson, sometimes he's as awful more than he is good. Wiggins is meek. Dante Vincenzo, a couple of bad turnovers last night. Jordan Poole's erratic. Nobody trusts him. Draymond Green doesn't give you offense, and Kayvon Looney can just rebound. Now, they're very good at those specific things, but Gary Payton II, who's not nearly as good as his dad, was Steph Curry's best teammate last night. That was it. And we always talk about KD. Steph won a title pre-KD. A couple with KD. Post-KD. Look around. Ask yourself this morning, because I'm asking myself, what are the Warriors without Steph? They're not a playoff team this year. That we know for sure. They are not a playoff team. And maybe they're a lottery team. But Brady won that Super Bowl with Belichick and without him. With Gronk, without him. AFC, NFC, Edelman, no Edelman. Go watch the Buccaneers this year. 1 year removed from Tom. They have a chance to be the number one pick in next year's draft. And that's with Baker Mayfield quarterbacking, the one everybody loves except me. And my question is, have we just underscored and underserved Steph Curry? Is he that much better? I mean, I watched Steph in the fourth quarter last night. Of course he was taking all those shots. Who would he trust? Wiggins is talented, but he can be meek. Draymond wasn't good offensively. Klay at times was awful, although he hit one big shot. Poole was terrible. They basically benched him. Dante DiVincenzo plays really, really hard but has limitations, and Looney has no offensive skill. And yet here's this team going back home, for the record, favored by almost 8 points against the Lakers. It should be 3-2 after tomorrow night. But I look at Steph Curry, and you wonder why in the fourth quarter, basically Steve Kerr said, to heck with it, I'm just going to roll with Steph and guys that play pretty well with Steph. Here was his coach after.
Steph was amazing. His effort was incredible. Just the stamina, with everything they were throwing at him to do what he did and attack and rebound and distribute the ball. 14 assists and 2 turnovers. He was amazing. We just couldn't quite get it done.
So, again, the Warriors are now favored by 7.5 points. I think they're going to go home and trounce the Lakers. I would not suggest that you keep AD and LeBron on the bench, but if it got ugly late second quarter, I would get LeBron and AD rest, sit them, and go with reserves in the second half. I feel like the series is coming back to Los Angeles. It's one thing to roll Memphis. It is another to roll a dynasty. They're going to come out swinging. But, I look at Steph Curry last night, and as good as AD and LeBron were, Steph Curry for 4 quarters just controlled the pace of the game. It was an all-time classic. We saw him do that against a very good Sacramento team there. I know we all now appreciate him finally, but this is a player that before last year's final, I was being told if he didn't win the MVP, he hadn't proven himself. If you're watching Steph last night and you still don't get it, I can't help you. If you're watching Mahomes at this point and you don't get it, I can't help you. That was an all-time performance.